Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, and welcome to Command Power, the show in which we discuss all things Magic the Gathering with a focus on Commander. And today we have a brand new deck for you, but before that, just a quick reminder to please click like and subscribe if you enjoy my videos. We're well on our way to 1 million subscribers and every single click counts. And today's deck is going to be centered around Minn, Wily Illusionist. For 1 colorless and 2 blue, she's a legendary creature Gnome Wizard 1/3 with whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 1/1 blue illusion creature token with this creature gets +1/+0 for each other illusion you control. And whenever an illusion you control dies, you may put a permanent card with mana value less than or equal to that creature's power from your hand onto the battlefield. So this is super unique as a blue deck because it wants you to be doing a bunch of different things. It wants you to be playing an illusion tribal kind of deck, although that's not completely necessary if you don't want to. And it's also going to ask you to be drawing 2 cards per turn, which is fairly easy to do in mono blue. But finally then, the coolest part and the most unusual in blue is the fact that you can put permanents onto the battlefield when your illusions die. And they can be any permanent, so it doesn't need to be a creature. You could put an artifact, an enchantment, or anything at all really onto the battlefield. And since your illusions are going to get pumped by each other illusion you control, then that means that you're going to be able to put a lot of stuff onto the battlefield, including, by the way, lands. So this is kind of ramp as well. It's a very cool and strong ability, and the way we're going to build this deck is with card draw synergies and a little bit of illusion tribal thrown in as well. So without further ado, let's get started, and we're starting off with Alondra Skydreamer. This one is really good when we're drawing this many cards because we're going to get a little army every time we draw an extra card, and if we ever get to draw a bunch of cards in one turn, this can just end the game on the spot. Azami Lady of Scrolls is very good to trigger our draw 2 cards effect. Seeing as Minn herself is a wizard, with Azami and Minn out, you can already activate that during your opponent's turn. Body of Knowledge is going to be very big in this deck, and it means that your opponents can't really attack you once it's out because they're going to trigger your commander and make you draw a bunch of cards. Chasm Skulker should grow very big with all of the cards we're going to be drawing, and it's very good when it dies because it provides us with a bunch of tokens. Curiosity Crafter works perfectly with what the deck is trying to do. It kind of feeds off of itself. You're basically going to make all these illusion tokens that are going to draw you cards, thus making you more illusion tokens. Drowned Rusalka is actually very strong in this deck for a couple of reasons. First, it's going to draw us extra cards, which is obviously a great way to trigger our commander, but we can also sacrifice our illusions to it, which is going to allow us to put permanents into play. This can allow for some very spicy plays. Fairy Mastermind is very good in this deck. It's just good in almost every deck, but it works particularly well here. Illusory Ambusher is one of my favorite cards, and it happens to be an illusion which draws us cards, so it just hits every metric we want in this deck. Krovikan Mist is very powerful. We're going to be making a bunch of illusions, which means that this is going to be very big for its mana cost, and that means that if it eventually dies, we can basically put anything we want from our hand into play. Lord of the Unreal is going to help protect our illusions and buff them. This is great for just 2 mana. Malcolm, Alluring Scoundrel, is an interesting one that we've put in basically to activate the extra card draw on our turn. It can be fairly good though, and we do want evasive aggressive creatures. Meloku the Clouded Mirror is very powerful in this deck. We can return lands to our hand, which helps with a lot of cards we have that care about our hand size, but then we're also going to be making flying illusion tokens, which is obviously great. Murmuring Mystic works fairly well in the deck. We don't have that many instants or sorceries, but it does make bird illusions whenever we cast one, so that's just perfect. Nezahal Primal Tide is going to make sure that our hand is nice and full, and it means that our opponents can't really play too many non-creature spells during their turn for fear of us drawing cards. Onerophage fits really nicely in this deck because it's an illusion on its own, and then it also grows when we draw cards. Phantasmal Dragon is a really big illusion. For 4 mana we get a 5/5 flyer, that's great. As for Phantasmal Dreadmore, if you know me, you knew I had to include this card in the deck. It's basically a really good standard illusion, and it's also Colossal Dreadmore, come on. Phantasmal Image is really powerful as a cheap clone effect that also happens to be an illusion. Phantom Steed is a card that I've always really liked, and it happens to be an illusion, which means it fits very well in this deck. It can rebuy ETB effects all day. Psychosis Crawler is one of our finishers of choice. We're going to be drawing a lot of cards, so this should be causing our opponents to lose a lot of life. Roaming Throne is a card that's really powerful and included in almost all decks these days, and again it's going to be very strong here. The only question is whether we choose illusion or wizard, and that's going to depend on your board state. Scourge of Fleets is obviously very powerful. We're playing a deck with mostly islands, so this is basically going to be a one-sided board wipe, which is fantastic. Hitsuka Umezawa Fugitive fits so well in this deck because all of our token illusions are going to have a high power but only 1 toughness. That's going to mean that we can hit people with a bunch of unblockable stuff. Titan of Littjara works really well, and it's an illusion to start off with, so you can feel free to choose another creature type that you might have in play in order to draw an extra card off of it. It's definitely one of the best cards in the deck. Toothy Imaginary Friend is an illusion that grows when we draw cards and then draws us cards when it dies. This is just perfect. Triskaidekaphile is a cheeky little creature that can sometimes get us some wins out of nowhere, and Unctus Grand Metatect allows us to cycle through our deck very quickly whilst also satisfying our commander's trigger. For sorceries, I wanted to highlight Spectral Deluge, which is going to be another one-sided board wipe. Moving on to instants, we have Abjure, which is very good. It's a counterspell for 1 mana, and we can sacrifice one of our illusions to get the death trigger off of it. Arcane Denial is always good, but it's particularly good in this deck because we can time it so that the extra card draw helps satisfy our commander. Artistic Refusal is a powerful counterspell if we have a bunch of tokens lying around. It can also allow us to draw 2 cards during our opponent's turn, thus giving us a new token. Perilous Research is another card that fits the deck perfectly. For 2 mana, we trigger our commander, and then we can just sack one of our illusion tokens to get to put something into play. Moving on to artifacts, we have Heraldic Banner that works perfectly in this deck because we care about the power of our illusions. Skull Clamp is absolutely fantastic in this deck, seeing as all of our tokens are going to have 1 toughness. And Vidalcan Shackles allows us to gain control of the best creature on the board over and over. It's very good. Moving on to enchantments, we're playing Kindred Discovery. We want to draw a bunch of cards, and we're playing a lot of illusions, so this is great. Ominous Seas should make a lot of 8/8 Krakens with all of the card draw we have. Teferi's Ageless Insight is an absolute powerhouse in this deck because we're drawing so many cards. And again, Wizard class is very good, particularly when we get to level 3 and we start putting counters on our stuff whenever we draw cards. For Planeswalkers, we have Mordenkainen. It makes illusion dogs, which are very powerful, and they're going to be proportional to our hand size, which is usually going to be quite big. Teferi Master of Time is a great way to keep activating our commander by drawing cards during our opponent's turn. And Teferi Temporal Pilgrim is there to make tokens that grow absolutely huge as we draw cards. Moving on to lands, we have Mystic Sanctuary to rebuy an important instant or sorcery. Reliquary Tower is going to make sure that we get to keep all of those cards that we're drawing. And War Room is there just to draw some extra cards, and it has synergy with our commander as well. So there you have it. That has been my Minn Wily Illusionist deck tech. What do you think about this one? The more cards I added to the deck, the more I realized that a lot of these are my favorite cards, so I might one day have to put this one together and give it a spin. But what do you think? Are there any cards I missed? Anything you think I shouldn't have included? Let me know in the comment section below. I read all comments and respond to all of them too. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click like or subscribe. It really helps the channel. And until next time, take care.